Thank you. I don't know. Wow, what a delay. It took like 10 minutes. All right, we're good to go. I want to talk about Bitcoin in this video. I'm going to talk about a little bit of Litecoin. Litecoin just broke $70 a little bit ago and want to cover the charts. There's a lot going on, everybody, and there are so many different patterns in play. It's ridiculous. A lot of people talking about this cup and handle. I pretty much have it beautifully illustrated on the screen right now. I'm going to cover that. For, I guess, context to this video and also some other things I've been watching for Bitcoin, I'm actually going to also chart just real quick this other pattern that we've been looking at. And this did not play out. I was talking to Poseidon, Lou, and Rob about this. This did not play out how I thought it would. There's a very similar pattern on Litecoin, an inverse head and shoulders. I actually covered it on the I think the last Litecoin video I did, talking about an inverse head and shoulders, right? Potential inverse head and shoulders. Here's our left shoulder. This is Bitcoin, by the way. Here's the head. And then this setup for a potential right shoulder, right? And I'm thinking maybe we come down and test the 50 moving average, this blue line, $7,700 or so, and then we kind of come back and maybe complete this inverse head and shoulders, right? We have that neckline up here, confluent with the 200 moving average, this red line that you see across the screen, all really important areas for Bitcoin to break. And that didn't happen. We have this extremely small little right shoulder in play right now, but it's there, right? So just keep that in mind when we're covering this chart right now. And I'm not going to really go over that. I wanted to show it to you since we've been tracking it. I'm going to also show it to you on Litecoin chart, but there's this cup and handle that everybody's talking about, right? And I mean, it's playing out really well in terms of what it looks like. We have this decreasing volume towards the right side of the cup. Come back, we have this upper trend line, again, very confluent with that inverse head and shoulders that I just charted, and confluent with this 200 moving average if we zoom in on the screen. So, there's so much happening right now in terms of what Bitcoin has been testing in terms of resistance, namely this upper trend line, the inverse head and shoulder upper trend line, the 200 moving average upper trend line, and Bitcoin recently has broken that, right? There is a target of around 11,700 for this cup and handle. And the target for that inverse head and shoulders slightly above there, right? We can almost call them very similar targets. So right now what I'm looking at on Bitcoin is this, and this is just my style. A lot of people appreciate it. A lot of people don't like it. And that is this retesting trend lines that have been broken, right? So Bitcoin was kind of earlier, I think today, late last night, making a little bit of moves down, right? What's up, Tech Lords? I see you in the chat. Making a little bit of consolidation down, right? And this is just the way that I approach the markets. I'm always anticipating some type of dip. I'm always anticipating, especially after breaking a trend line, in this case, right? This upper trend line here of this cup and handle and the 200 moving average. I'm always just waiting to see if Bitcoin retests it and if there's support. Because at that point, that's when I start being a little bit more bullish, right? And you'll hear it in my tone of voice. I might sound a little more excited or something, but that just hasn't happened yet now. So I'm still anticipating a move like that, support in those areas. I don't talk a lot about the downside because it's just sometimes I can't deal with all the comments talking about the downside. What's up, Dan Best? How you doing, man? But the sad thing is, it's just always the thing that's on my mind. So I'm going to chart it. So in terms of that support, we're looking at around $9,000. The 200 moving average is right around 88.95. So there's a lot of confluence in that support area right now for Bitcoin. Going over to Bitcoin on the weekly chart, this is really why I wanted to do this video. The weekly chart is where it's at, everybody. I want to throw that out there. The weekly chart is beautiful. So I want to look at just 3 separate weekly charts because there's a bunch of things going on. The long-term trend of Bitcoin, if you just look at it on the screen, looks ridiculous, right? And we use our Fibonacci retracement. There's a link in the description below talking about this long-term trend of Bitcoin and my approach to it from a technical analysis standpoint, but I use Fibonacci a lot. So Fibonacci higher lows, what am I saying here? I'm talking about these higher lows that Bitcoin has been making in terms of these bear market bottoms, right? We have this recent one back in December that we had, and then we have that last bear market bottom back over here in January. So where does Fibonacci retracement come into play in terms of that? Very simple. Here's our Fibonacci retracement from the swing high in the Bitcoin bull market like 2013 to from the last swing low back in early or mid 2013. And this is how we were kind of using historical data to gauge where our most recent bear market bottom would be, right? We have our Fibonacci retracement, the 618 to 786 bottom. This is where we look for support or reversal. Now, in that last market, Bitcoin was so overextended below that and just kind of bottomed out below it. And going into this last Bitcoin bull market or bear market, I should say, Bitcoin, we were anticipating to do a very similar move, right? So we take our same Fibonacci from that bear market low to bull market high, and we said to ourselves, and we questioned this on the whole way down, what's Bitcoin going to do at this Fibonacci 618 to 786? And you can see it did exactly the same thing as it did in the last bear market. We overextended below it, right? We found support at this 200 moving average, and that was the bottom for Bitcoin in the bear market. So what Bitcoin has done since then is another similar thing. That's the 50 weekly moving average, support above it. And this is key. This is so important. And if we look at the charts, if we look at these Bitcoin charts, you can see in the last Bitcoin bear market, Bitcoin just moving perfectly with higher highs and higher lows after breaking out of that bear market above the 50-week moving average, that blue line, going into that last halving. Now, here's the thing. My technical analysis is extremely simple. I think it's because I'm a very simple dude. I don't have a lot of time to sit and watch charts all day and to get into all of these indicators. But I also don't think you need to. There are so many indicators you can use, and a lot of them are really cool. But when I'm trying to do these simple videos for, everybody out there, I think the best thing to do is look at what matters. And that really is moving averages. It's the picture of Bitcoin and this long-term trend, right? And we have a lot of consistency among the 200 moving average and the 50 moving average. So in this context, the weekly 50 moving average is just one of my favorite indicators. We know on the daily chart, it's also the 50-day moving average is one of my favorites. But you can just see Bitcoin in that last bear market, just higher highs, higher lows out of that last bear market. Now, this is like the biggest thing for me that's happened recently in the last couple months. I was getting a little worried here. I mean, I wasn't worried to the point of being long-term bearish on Bitcoin or something, but I was just kind of wondering what Bitcoin was going to do because we didn't see that same really solid support just above this 50-week moving average. We really tested that area. One thing that I was kind of lending to Bitcoin in terms of the flexibility to do something like that is just the fact that we exited this bear market bottom so fast, way faster than the last bear market. So I thought a quick correction below the 50-week moving average, maybe not too bad of a thing. What's important to me now is Bitcoin is showing support above that 50-week moving average. Right now, you can see if we kind of add price range to that, we are right about 18% above. So what's sweet about that, we have room for some consolidation. We have room for a 15%, even a 20% to the downside day if it happens, right? And that's something that's always on my mind, some type of consolidation. So 50-week moving average on Bitcoin looking extremely bullish. And then we have this, probably one of my favorites, the cycles of Bitcoin, defining the cycles of Bitcoin. We have this swing high in the last bear market to that swing high in the last bull market to the bear market low. And we have Bitcoin coming out of the bear market and testing that same exact Fibonacci channel, but on the upside now. This is resistance coming back down, higher low, and then breaking through into the bull market. So we've been anticipating so long for a similar type of move, which all of my videos are anticipating all these moves that just take forever to play out. And if we take out our Fibonacci retracement, we can do the same thing that we just did in that last cycle, which is bull market high to bear market low. If you've been watching my channel, you know we've tested this already, similar to exiting that last bear market, testing this fib channel, came back down. We're seeing support at the 50-week moving average. It's a higher low from the bear market bottom. And we're hopefully on our way to do exactly what Bitcoin did in that last cycle, which is break through that whole entire Fibonacci retracement, 618 to 786. That is like $16,000 to $13,000. That's what we're looking at for Bitcoin right now. So whether or not we get there, I'm not going to sit here as a YouTuber and say like, listen, everybody, this is it. We're going to the moon. Buckle up. It's happening. I'm not going to do that. I have to like tone it down and just be realistic and just say, listen, like the potential is so there, right? And that's why I'm long-term invested in Bitcoin and crypto markets. It's so there. But there's risk here. Like I can zoom out on this chart, and this isn't a popular thing to do, but I can tell you Bitcoin can like fail in whatever uptrend we're hoping for, and we can like fall below this entire lower trend line, the famous lower trend line that extends back years and years and years and cycles, right? We can fall below there and we can fall hard. We can break this 200 weekly moving average, which is down here at like 5,100. Do I think that's going to happen? No. Please don't say I'm bearish or I think that's going to happen. But you have to like have $0 in the back of your mind, a $0 Bitcoin. If you're accumulating anything, you have to have the possibility of failure as the end result. Otherwise, you're gonna invest more than you can afford to lose, and you're not going to make the right decisions. By the way, I'll say one more time, I don't think that's going to happen. But that's Fibonacci cycle resistance, and we're just making moves getting closer and closer to that, right? And so we go back to the beginning of this chart. We have this cup and handle that we're looking at on Bitcoin. I talked to Poseidon Lou about this. I talked to Rob about this, and it's there, right? How it plays out is anybody's guess. I want to tell you, cup and handles like this are bullish, right? $11,700 target or so is bullish, and it sounds awesome. But I also want to tell you, cup and handle patterns fail. They fail all the time. So we have to be patient and let things play out. I'm looking at this trend line right here. I'm looking at this 200 moving average, like this $8,900 to $9,000 area is huge for support. It's not far away for Bitcoin to even retest that. I would love for it not to have to, right? It's only 5% away to kind of retest that area. I would love if that didn't happen and Bitcoin just kind of moons, but time will tell. But it's a really nice looking cup and handle. I don't really track cup and handles a lot at all. But we have that descending volume right here at the right side of that cup. We have the handle, kind of this falling pattern of sorts, a descending pattern, which is a typical for cup and handle. So it's like a perfect setup right now. And, I love the synergy that this cup and handle has with the potential for this inverse head and shoulders as well, with very similar breakout targets. It just looks really, really nice. I love Rob's comment. Please don't take anything Dan says as financial advice. He states this several times during the video and the description at the beginning of each video. Do your own research. Thank you, Rob. Dude. And please don't take my advice, because last week I thought Bitcoin was going to $7,500. What does that show you? That shows you that I just can't get it right every time, everybody. I'm sorry. So the question is this. If Bitcoin is getting ready to take off and hit this target, and this cup and handle is getting ready to just beautifully just come into fruition, and we get our targets close to $12,000. And by the way, $12,000 target is also a target we've been talking about in terms of this falling wedge on the weekly chart. Call it a falling wedge, call it a falling channel. Everybody's charting it differently. The $12,000 or so, a little over $12,000 is the target for it, right? So, and essentially what I'm talking about, if you don't know, is just this pattern here, right here, falling wedge, falling channel, however you want to chart it. Bitcoin broke above it, right? Broke above it, few weeks above, strongly above the 50-week moving average. It's looking awesome. So like we have all of these technical patterns, these technical setups that are pointing to $12,000 or so in that general vicinity. And what do we have just above the $12,000? And this is like this is the thing that is on my mind. And we just talked about it. It's that Fibonacci retracement resistance area. Like, we're going to start creeping up on that again if we start hitting these targets. If Bitcoin does take off, right, and we hit $12,000 or so in the coming days or weeks or whatever, however long it takes, we're right under this huge resistance area. Would we have consolidation before making taking a crack at it, right, for Bitcoin? All of these things that I'm talking about every day, they take days and weeks, if not months, to play out. This scenario that I just charted here could take us into the halving, right? We could be testing finally this resistance in May, right? And I know not everybody wants to hear that, but that's just the name of the game for Bitcoin. Zoom out on the charts. Like, everything takes patience. And unless you're in that just parabolic phase of a Bitcoin move, you've really got to let Bitcoin do its thing. So Bitcoin's looking really good. Litecoin, interestingly enough, some of the same setups, and you almost have to cover Litecoin because you have all these altcoins in the markets moving. Litecoin and Bitcoin haven't really been doing that much, right? In terms of like things like Dash, when you're comparing it to some other altcoins, BSV, right? And you wonder, like, what is Bitcoin and Litecoin doing? And then, as often is the case, Litecoin kind of makes a move before Bitcoin. It just kind of happens so often. I can't even tell you how many videos I did where it's just like, we're covering Litecoin making a move and talking about, here we go again, Litecoin's leading the way, and then Bitcoin makes a move. It's not guaranteed it's going to happen like that. It just seems to happen a lot. So here's the thing. In terms of Litecoin charts, right, I want to talk about this because I'm invested in this pattern that we tracked for so long. You have this head and shoulders that we were concerned about a while ago, this red setup, this head and shoulders, right? And we broke this lower neckline, trend line, and then in a day popped right back above it. And then we started talking about this. All right, this head and shoulders doesn't play out. That would be awesome for Litecoin. That means we're not going into like the $20. But what if we get a busted head and shoulders, which is basically the opposite of a head and shoulders, a bearish pattern. It's a bullish setup. And a busted head and shoulders, really what you do is you measure the height of the head to the neckline, and then you wait for Litecoin to break that right shoulder swing high, and then you have your target, right, from that area, which is the height of the head and the neckline. And we talked about this, and that target was right around $71. Now we are there. Litecoin did the best possible thing it could do after this very ugly downtrend, after this head and shoulders, and that is a breakout, a busted head and shoulders to $71 target. And we have these different things in play that are very similar to Bitcoin. We have this cup and handle, right? Very similar to Bitcoin right now. We have this inverse head and shoulders, right with that neckline. Very similar to Bitcoin right now with a very small shoulder. And Litecoin just has such great potential for a huge breakout right now. And with all of these recent moves of all these altcoins lately, I mean, it just makes sense that Litecoin might finally have its breakout. And we're talking, into the 90s for this target. Interestingly enough, and it actually, I really wouldn't be surprised if Litecoin outperforms Bitcoin, but if Litecoin hits its target, it's close to 40% from where it is now, let alone from that actual trend line, we're talking 60%. Bitcoin on this chart, we're looking at a target of, from that neckline, 30% or so. It would not surprise me at all if Litecoin outperforms Bitcoin in terms of gains. Now, I want to speak completely upfront, completely honest, just like tell you what I'm thinking. I told you for the last year, leading into Bitcoin halving, and after the Litecoin halving, that Bitcoin is just a safer play for me, right? My eyes are on Bitcoin now going to Bitcoin halving. And it's really all based on this chart. And history doesn't have to repeat itself. I get it. This is my own risk tolerance. This is my own approach. I look at how Litecoin performed, and there's so many consistencies, right? We talk about how Litecoin leads the way. We talk about how, Litecoin charts and Bitcoin charts are so like harmonious with each other historically. So I have to take this seriously. So into the last Bitcoin halving, right? We have Litecoin, basically a nice little pump, right? Into the 50-week moving average, and then back down leading into the Bitcoin halving. Now, what happened after that is what's most concerning to me. And that is simply Litecoin against Bitcoin. It just it doesn't look good, right? And we can talk about from that swing high to the swing low, it's 72%. And for me, that's a big risk leading into the same part of this cycle. So I still own Litecoin, everybody. I'm holding long-term for Litecoin, but over this past, half a year to year, Bitcoin has been my focus in terms of accumulating and buying the dips. Bitcoin has been my main focus. And this is why. I mean, the charts are the charts. I like Litecoin. I do. I'm long on Litecoin. But there's a lot of risk, I think. And I could be completely proven wrong. And Litecoin can just kind of keep going up, maybe make a higher low, and then just keep going up, break the 50-week moving average, kind of like a move like this, right? Out of that swing low. Maybe that happens. And that would be awesome. I would be extremely happy. And we can do really bullish videos on that. But what if this happens, right? And we don't know. And right now, Litecoin seems to, at the very least, it could be making a very similar move to what it did back here, right? And this was a few months before that last Bitcoin halving, which was, and I'm just curious, percentage-wise, we're looking at 30-35% swing high before coming back down. So right now, Litecoin is in a move on this BTC pair of about 40%. So here's the thing. If Litecoin outperforms Bitcoin on this USD chart in terms of percentage gains, and it does hit its target in the high 90s, this Litecoin might be pulling away from this historical chart, but that's something that's yet to be seen, and time will tell. I want that to happen. I want Litecoin to succeed. I want Litecoin price to go up. I don't want this chart to play out as ugly as I think it could play out. We have this 50-week moving average cross below the 200 moving average, and there's it's very iffy waters right now for the BTC LTC pair. As always, I'm long-term bullish on Litecoin, but it's just kind of like against Bitcoin, what's going to happen? Do you know what I mean? And if you zoom out on the charts, on the Litecoin charts, this is on USD, and then I'm on the daily chart right now, you can see what Litecoin did on the USD. It doesn't look nearly as bad as what it looks like on the BTC pair. Here's that pump before the halving that we just looked at, the consolidation back down. And when LTC was not performing well against BTC, we saw that 72% dip. This is what it looks like on USD. It's just a lot of sideways trading. It's kind of boring. It is what it is. So this is a picture, besides the BTC chart, this is an illustration of why for the last year or so, I've been so focused on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is my number one. And I know there's going to be altcoins, at the next all-time high, if we get it, right? If we get that bull run everybody wants, there's going to be altcoins that outperform Bitcoin. Actually, most altcoins that really outperform Bitcoin percentage-wise are probably going to really outperform percentage-wise. And I'm okay with that. I have my altcoin stash that I will enjoy those gains. But Bitcoin is just that less risk type of play for me that really helps me balance my portfolio. And to me, Bitcoin is the strongest in terms of every cryptocurrency. So those are my thoughts on Bitcoin and Litecoin. Just some really awesome looking targets right now in terms of these patterns that are playing out. It's nice to see Litecoin back above $70 if I can get to it. This is the daily chart. And it's also nice to see these patterns that we've been tracking for so long, even though the chart is extremely messy, finally playing out. Do you believe it? I have to go back and find these videos where we were talking about this head and shoulders setting up as a potential busted head and shoulders. I imagine it was like in mid-December, probably talking about it towards the end of December, talking about a target to $71 up here, and now here we are. We're at $71, and it just looks awesome. So those are my thoughts on Bitcoin and Litecoin. Wanted to do a video. Litecoin broke 70. Bitcoin's, at the threshold of potentially breaking out to its next little swing high. The other thing I didn't mention, which is probably actually extremely important that I mention, is this. Bitcoin right now, you can see trying so hard at this resistance area, right? Which is basically resistance of this previous swing high. Bitcoin trying so hard to finally put in a higher high, right? On this new little uptrend we have, and I'm sorry my chart is so messy, Bitcoin has a series of higher highs and higher lows, but to really get a sense and a picture of this reversal that could potentially be in play right now after the 7-month downturn is this would be the first higher high, which we're breaking a swing high, this one back in October. We're so close. Like, we're so close from Bitcoin breaking that swing high and putting in this new high. That is huge for Bitcoin, especially being, if you look and we zoom in here on this chart, Bitcoin is now above the 200 moving average on this daily chart. It's a beautiful place to be. If you go to the weekly chart, Bitcoin is healthy above the 50 moving average, right? This blue line. And just looking very good above this entire Fibonacci channel that we talked about. So those are my thoughts in terms of Bitcoin and Litecoin. Appreciate you, everybody that's here. Friday nights, like a really weird time. I figured I'd do a quick live stream. Time for me to rest up. If you're here, not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. I would absolutely love for you to be a part of this channel. I hope I can add value to all of you. I appreciate you in the comments. I see you just hanging out. I hope you're having a good weekend. Hopefully, I end this live stream and we start pumping. But just keep in mind that there's always room for consolidation for Bitcoin, and it can happen literally at any moment. So have your plan in place. Figure out what you're going to do with yourself mentally during these crazy volatile times. But hopefully we can enjoy higher highs and higher lows. Hit that like button right now. Hit that like button on the way out. It means a lot to me. It really does. It makes me feel like I'm doing something right. So I appreciate you. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. I will see you in the next video, and God bless.